Hello, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. I wanted to make a few comments regarding some of the news from the Diocese of Charlotte in the past few weeks. Many of you probably know that, quote, Bishop Martin has restricted the Latin Mass to just one chapel in Mooresville. And he's also even sent out a letter, I guess a while ago, to the priests of the diocese stating that there will be even changes to the Novus Ordo. And so I just wanted to give my thoughts regarding all of this. So I had come across a few passages I was reading the Catechism of the Council of Trent, and this kind of goes with what I was saying last time, that in the Article 9 on the Creed, towards the beginning of the book, it talks about how in the church there's the mark of oneness or unity, and this mark encompasses both oneness of sacraments but also oneness of faith. It talks about how everybody in the church participates in the same sacraments and professes the same faith. Well, in the document that Bishop Martin sent out to the priests, he states very clearly several times that he thinks that the priests who celebrate the 62 Missal and prefer the 62 Missal not only prefer pre-Vatican II liturgical ideas, but also pre-Vatican II theological ideas. So he is even clearly demonstrating that the theology, which is the study of the faith, is different pre- and post-Vatican II. Well, if that's the Catholic Church, that's impossible. So either Bishop Martin is a heretic, which of course he is, or the entire Novus Ordo Church is different from the Catholic Church, and in which case Bishop Martin would also not be a Catholic, because he would be in a church that is separated or apart from or alien to the true Catholic Church established by our Lord. And it's very interesting because I've seen now many outrage from many false traditionalists who are very saddened by these Latin Mass restrictions. And it's interesting to see, because it goes to show you that no matter how much they cling to the Latin Mass or the old rite, and by the way, they're clinging to the 62 Missal, which was promulgated by John the 23rd, who was also a heretic and not a pope. In any event, they're clinging to this old rite of Mass when they have absolutely no problem professing the same faith as Bishop Martin, or, a few months ago with Francis. They profess the exact same faith as him. They say that they didn't, and they say that they disagree with what Francis teaches, etc., but they show by their actions, by attending Masses in communion with Francis and in communion with their local bishop, that they agree with the faith that they preach. Otherwise, they would have to say that the church got it wrong, that all in the church do not have the same faith, and that the Council of Trent and the Catechism of the Council of Trent were wrong, and that they are not infallible. I'm not saying the Catechism is infallible, but the Council of Trent most definitely is. It is a dogma that all profess the same faith. It is also a dogma proclaimed at Vatican I ex cathedra that all join the Roman Pontiff in professing the same faith. So how can you say that Francis was the Pope? And I know that Leo is the new guy, and I made a video about him, or I recorded a video about him. But let's just take Francis, for example. How can you say that Francis was a Catholic or was a true Pope when, millions upon millions of people all throughout the world either disobeyed him or they totally rejected his teachings because they thought that he professed something different than them. So it's totally ridiculous, and it goes to show that the only tenable solution to any of this happening is the sedevacantist position, because we hold to every single dogma of the church. We do not compromise with anything, but we also hold the same sacraments as the church. So we hold the true faith, but we also have true sacraments, because we have apostolic succession, we have valid priests, valid bishops that offer sacraments to the true faithful throughout the United States and throughout the world. And another thing too, with regard to this, Mooresville Chapel, is I guarantee that many other bishops are probably on board with it just quietly. And again, it's just incredible to see so many people continually remain within that structure, and almost like it's really just like they care less about what they actually believe. All they care about is the Mass and where to attend on Sundays. I also saw another letter from the Society of St. Pius X that basically were like, oh yeah, we're totally in communion with Leo, and we're totally in communion with Bishop Martin. And they hung up a picture of Martin in their chapel, etc. And that goes to show you that despite how many traditional externals the Society of St. Pius X has, and despite how many traditional things or traditional and conservative motives they have behind what they do, at the end of the day, they're still not Catholic. Because, again, they could care less about who professes what they profess, etc. Not to mention they hold total heresy regarding papal infallibility, papal primacy of jurisdiction, etc. They totally contradict Pope Pius IX on that issue. And they also hold heresy regarding the salvation dogma, which is totally widespread nowadays. And it's very sad to see so many people blinded by all of these groups like the SSPX or the FSSP, maybe the Novus Ordo Church, etc. And it's to their condemnation, unfortunately, because they know that, well, if they just open up, the Baltimore Catechism, then they'll be able to see, well, the church has the mark of oneness. The church has the mark of universality, of apostolicity, etc. And the Novus Ordo Church and the Society of St. Pius X, the Fraternity of St. Peter, the ICKSP, etc. None of these groups have all of the marks of the church. They may have one or two, but they definitely don't have all four. So those were just a few comments that I wanted to share. And again, if people are interested, they can email me. I'll post my email in the description. They can call me. They can shoot me a text over Instagram or something like that. Because I find that people will wake up eventually at some point, especially with all these restrictions coming around. Unfortunately, even amongst those who are traditional Catholic, you still have people that just go to the traditional Catholic chapels. They don't actually profess the true faith. So it's so crucial to hold fast to the true faith. And it was kind of, providential, I think, that I came across that passage in the Catechism of the Council of Trent, basically right before all of this news started coming out. And it's just a vindication on the sedevacantist position. And another argument, too, that a lot of people make is, well, how can you say that none of these guys were popes and none of these are bishops, etc.? Because where's the Catholic Church? And it's like, well, Pope Pius XII defined that the Catholic Church is the mystical body. And what is the mystical body? It's the members of the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Church is the members of the Catholic Church. And in order to be a member of the Catholic Church, he defines that only those who are members of the Catholic Church are those who have been baptized and who profess the true faith. And so if you take that standard and apply it to all the priests of the diocese or any of the priests of the Society of St. Pius X, the FSSP, etc., you'll find that almost none of them are actually Catholic. For example, I've seen many priests of the diocese offer either, requiem masses, or I guess they call them Mass of the Angels, for unbaptized infants who have passed away, who have died. Almost as if they're in heaven, and they're asking these infants to pray for them. Well, that's impossible, because it is dogmatically defined that infants who die without the sacrament of baptism do not go to heaven, but they go to a part of hell, which is called limbo, in which it is a place of perfect happiness, but they cannot intercede for you. They are not with God, etc. And that's so important why, infants need to be baptized. And that's another reason why the Catholic Church railed against the Protestants who thought that infants don't need baptism, because all of these children are going to hell. And that's another reason why many people in the pro-life movement as well are complete heretics, and they're not actually pro-life. Because if for example, take abortion, if these infants went to heaven, then abortion would be a sacrament. That'd be the greatest sacrament of all time, because you're going straight to heaven basically less than a year after you've been conceived, when that's not actually the case. You actually need to live your life, receive the sacraments, enter the church, etc., in order to be saved. And many priests of the diocese don't believe that. Just ask them. They'll say, well, the church has changed that idea. They say, oh, that wasn't actually infallible. Even traditional priests, like the FSSP priests that say the 62 Missal, they don't believe that. Not at all. Otherwise, they wouldn't offer masses of angels for these human beings. So, those are just a few thoughts. At some point, I want to make a video about, further explaining my position. I think that it's important to get this information out now, especially while there's all of these crazy, restrictions happening, and many people are kind of wondering what's going on. And so I just wanted to give my thoughts